There is a fundamental difference between competitive trash talk and a deeply rooted personal vendetta. In professional basketball, the lines are clearly drawn from the moment you step onto the hardwood. You can go after a player's handle. You can critique their defensive rotations. You can play aggressive, physical basketball. And you can even talk a little garbage to get inside their head. That is the game. That is what fans pay to see. But what happens when the criticism stops being about basketball entirely? What happens when a seasoned WNBA veteran, someone who is supposed to be an ambassador for the sport, picks up a microphone and says the quiet part out loud? Recently, the narrative surrounding Caitlin Clark shifted dramatically. It went from a fascinating sports debate about a rookie adjusting to the pros into something entirely different and far more toxic. A line wasn't just crossed, it was completely erased. The recent comments made by a prominent WNBA veteran didn't just break the internet. They broke the unwritten code of professional solidarity that this league has relied on for nearly 3 decades. When you listen to the audio of these comments, when you really pay attention to the tone, the inflection, and the subtle venom in the delivery, you realize very quickly that this isn't about a rookie struggling to adjust to a physical league. This isn't an X's and O's basketball analysis that you hear on ESPN. This is deeply personal. And the real story, the one that the mainstream media is terrified to touch, isn't just what was said. It's why it was said, and what the league office in New York is desperately trying to hide behind closed doors before the multi-million-dollar corporate sponsors start asking questions. To truly understand the bitterness behind these recent comments, you have to rewind the clock. You have to force yourself to put yourself in the shoes of a WNBA veteran who has been grinding in this league for a decade or more. Imagine dedicating your entire life to a sport. Imagine playing your heart out in half-empty arenas where you can hear individual conversations in the third row. Imagine fighting tooth and nail for charter flights, fighting for a livable wage, and being forced to play overseas in Russia or Turkey during the off-season just to pay the bills and keep your dream alive. These veterans built the house. They laid the foundation, brick by painful brick, in the dark when nobody was watching. And then, almost overnight, a 22-year-old girl from Iowa walks through the front door, and suddenly, the entire world is watching. Suddenly, the arenas aren't just full, they are sold out in minutes. Suddenly, the television ratings are shattering records, outperforming NHL playoff games and rivaling the NBA. Suddenly, the merchandise is flying off the shelves so fast that Nike literally cannot manufacture the jerseys quickly enough. The comments that crossed the line this week were born from a very dark, very human place. Pure, unadulterated ego and a profound sense of unfairness. The veteran who made these remarks wasn't trying to protect the integrity of the women's game. She was trying to protect her own legacy from being completely overshadowed. It is the psychological reality that nobody on daytime sports television wants to admit. The veterans aren't necessarily mad that Caitlin Clark is getting attention. They are terrified and resentful that the world only started caring about women's basketball when she arrived. That realization hurts, and that pain and fear are mutating into a toxicity that is bleeding out onto the court, into press conferences, and onto podcasts. But here is the crucial detail that is flying completely under the radar of the casual fan. When a player steps out of line and makes a controversial, borderline defamatory statement, what happens next tells you absolutely everything you need to know about the internal culture of the league. In the WNBA, player solidarity has historically been ironclad. It is a sisterhood. When the league is attacked, they stand together. When a player is wronged, they speak with one unified voice. But after these explosive comments dropped, listen to the reaction from the rest of the league. Listen to the veterans, the all-stars, the MVPs.
Exactly. Complete, deafening silence.
Not a single major star stepped up to publicly defend the veterans' words, likely because they knew how bad it looked. But far more importantly, almost nobody stepped up to defend Caitlin Clark either. That silence is not a neutral stance. In a league as historically vocal, unapologetic, and socially active as the WNBA, staying quiet is a deliberate, calculated choice. It tells us that the locker rooms across the country are fractured. Players are terrified of taking a side in this civil war. If you defend Caitlin, you betray the old guard and risk being ostracized by your peers. If you attack Caitlin, you become the villain on national television and invite the wrath of millions of new fans.
So, they say nothing. But behind the scenes, the reality is entirely different. Group chats are exploding. Agents are working overtime. Front office executives are making panicked phone calls in the middle of the night because they know that this internal civil war, this petty jealousy, is threatening to destroy the greatest financial opportunity this league has ever had in its history.
Let's talk about the one thing that doesn't care about hurt feelings, bruised egos, or basketball legacies. Let's talk about the money. The veteran who made these out-of-line comments forgot the cardinal rule of modern sports business. You do not bite the hand that feeds you, and you absolutely do not attack the cash cow. Right now, major brands, television networks, and massive corporate sponsors are pouring millions upon millions of dollars into the WNBA ecosystem. And let's be brutally honest about why that is happening right now. They are not investing out of charity. They are investing in the Caitlin Clark effect. When veterans go out of their way to publicly disrespect, demean, or undermine Clark, they aren't just attacking a rookie who hasn't earned her stripes yet. They are attacking the very investment pipeline that is funding their own salary increases. They are jeopardizing the new TV deals. Sports agents are reportedly furious behind closed doors. Fortune 500 brands do not want to associate with a toxic, bullying product. One prominent sports marketing executive, speaking strictly off the record, said that the current hostility toward Clark is the worst public relations disaster the league could possibly face. By trying to tear down the rookie to make themselves feel bigger, these veterans are actively threatening to close the wallets of every major sponsor who finally decided to give women's basketball a chance. It is financial self-sabotage on a historic, unprecedented scale. This isn't just about ticket sales anymore. This is about the future viability of the league. The WNBA has operated at a financial loss for decades, subsidized by the NBA. Now they finally have a golden ticket to financial independence. And instead of embracing the player who holds that ticket, a vocal faction of the league is trying to run her out of town. It defies logic. It is an emotional response to a business situation. And in professional sports, emotional business decisions always lead to disaster.
And right in the dead center of this absolute hurricane of jealousy, media spin, locker room politics, and national scrutiny stands a 22-year-old rookie. How Caitlin Clark has handled this targeted, relentless harassment is perhaps the most incredible part of this entire saga.
When the comments went viral, when the sports debate shows dedicated hours of programming to dissecting the disrespect, everyone waited for the clapback. Everyone refreshed their social media feeds, waiting for Caitlin Clark to finally snap, to defend herself, or for her PR camp to release a fiery defensive statement. It is what any normal person would do when backed into a corner. But Caitlin did something that absolutely paralyzed her critics and left the media with nothing to spin. She did absolutely nothing. She woke up. She walked into the practice facility. She watched film. She laced up her shoes and she went to work.
When reporters desperately tried to bait her into a reaction during the post-game press conferences, practically begging her for a soundbite to fuel the fire, she looked them dead in the eye and talked about her team's defensive rotations. She talked about turnovers. She talked about needing to shoot better from the floor. She redirected every single ounce of drama, every single provocative question, straight back to the game of basketball.
This is the poise of a 10-year veteran trapped in a rookie's body. It is a masterclass in public relations and mental toughness. By refusing to engage in the mudslinging, by refusing to roll around in the dirt with her detractors, Clark didn't just take the high road, she made the veterans look incredibly petty, bitter, and small. Her silence was the loudest, most devastating response possible. It proved that she is there to play basketball, while they are there to play politics. We are witnessing a paradigm shift in real time, and shifts like this in sports history are always violent and messy. The veteran who crossed the line this week is not just a single bad actor. She is a symptom of a much larger systemic disease within the league. It is a league that is struggling, violently, to accept that its past is officially over, and its future has arrived in the form of a point guard from Iowa. The WNBA has a monumental choice to make, and they have to make it right now before the damage becomes irreversible. They can either allow bitter veterans to haze and alienate their golden goose until the mainstream audience gets disgusted, tunes out, and changes the channel back to the NBA or the NFL. Or they can adapt. They can step in, set a standard of professionalism, and protect the product. The numbers simply do not lie. The fans have spoken with their wallets, their viewership, and their attendance. Caitlin Clark did not just bring a massive spotlight to the WNBA, she brought a high-powered magnifying glass. And right now, that glass is exposing a level of deep-seated insecurity and unprofessionalism that is incredibly hard to watch. The comments made this week were severely out of line, yes. But if you look closely, they were also the dying breaths of an old era. The Caitlin Clark train has officially left the station, and it is moving at light speed. The rest of the league has a very simple decision to make. You can either swallow your pride, get on board, and enjoy the ride to unprecedented wealth and exposure. Or you can stubbornly stand on the tracks with your ego and get run over by the future. What do you guys think? Did this veteran completely cross the line and expose the toxic jealousy in the league? Or is the media just blowing a simple basketball critique totally out of proportion? Drop your honest, unfiltered opinion in the comments below, because I want to hear your side of this. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more deep dives and unfiltered basketball truths. I'll see you all in the next one.